De-essers. So that is what we're talking about in today's video. And most of you guys probably at least have one de-esser in your collection. And a lot of you probably have several. So I have several. And I have to say that all of them leave me longing for more. I actually don't like most of the de-essers that I own. And in today's video, we're talking about a new de-esser from Slate Digital called the FG-DS 902. So the question is this de-esser any better than the other de-essers that you or I own? If you guys want to know, stick around after this introduction. Legend softly. Welcome everybody, I'm Dan Spencer, and I am the Audio Sorcerer. So this is the channel where I teach you how to perfect your audio recording, mixing, and mastering skills. So before we get to the video, make sure you guys smash that like button. Please subscribe and hit that notification bell to know when new videos coming out. So without further ado, today we're talking about the Slate Digital FG-DS 902. So what is the 902? Well, it is a de-esser that is modeled after a very popular piece of hardware, which is the DBX 902. So let's actually take a look at that here. So on reverb.com, I believe this is actually the piece of hardware here. And as you can see, it's selling for $175. That's used, of course. So this is the actual piece of hardware that the Slate 902 is modeled after, okay? So going back to the Slate page here, basically in this tutorial, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna take you through the user interface, of course, show you how the plugin works. Then we're gonna take a listen to it on singing vocals and then on dialogue, so you can hear it in both scenarios. And then that should give you a pretty good idea of how good this de-esser actually is and whether you want to add it to your plugin collection or not. And if you do, I have a link in the description below where you can purchase it. And since you guys are watching this video, I'm going to assume that you guys like Slate Digital products. So in the top right corner now, I have a link popping up to my Slate Digital product reviews and tutorials playlist. So in this playlist, there's all kinds of Slate videos, and I give a lot of my opinions on how to actually use the plugin. So if you like Slate products, this playlist is definitely worth a look. So check it out after this video. So that being said, let's get further into this topic and let's look at the user interface of the Slate Digital FG-DS 902. Alright, so here we are in Pro Tools and I have the Slate Virtual Mix Rack open because that's what the FG-DS module comes in. So looking at the module here, our first parameter at the top here is mode. So this allows you to choose between full range and high frequency only. So by default, you're in full range mode, which means it's going to de-ess the whole entire frequency range of your vocal. Now, if you put it into high frequency only, it's only going to de-ess the high frequencies. So, you got to play with it and figure out which works best for the particular application that you're working with, okay? So the next two parameters right here come in a group. On the left-hand side, you have the listen monitoring parameter, which enables the monitoring of removed sibilances. And on the right-hand side here, you have the auto activation of that parameter. And what I mean by that is if I enable this here, nothing happens yet. But if I go down to the frequency knob here and I start moving it, you're going to see that the listen monitoring button above right there is engaged as long as I'm moving it, okay? So that's pretty cool. So let me actually turn these off here. So this actual frequency knob here is of no use to you unless you have high frequency only mode engaged. And the reason for that is because when we're in full range mode, it's going to be de-essing all the frequencies in the range, okay? But if we put this in high frequency only mode, it's going to de-ess the actual frequency that you set in here, okay? So you get a little bit more fine tuning when you're in high frequency only mode, all right? Now, down here in our range, this is where we get to choose how much dB gain reduction we get. And what's kind of cool about this de-esser here is that there's actually a norm range here. So if we put this in here, this is considered what would be, subtle, soft, natural de-essing. Okay, that's what they consider good here. Now, of course, we can go less, we can go more. You got to kind of dial into what you think sounds good, but this is what is recommended by the plugin, okay? And then lastly, down here at the bottom, we have our output knob, and then we also got a mix knob, so we can actually mix this in as an effect. So that is actually pretty cool. It's kind of rare to have a mix knob for a de-esser, so that's kind of unique to this. And so that is the Slate Digital FG-DS 902 in a nutshell there. So now we're going to listen to this first on a singing lead vocal track. All right, so here we are in Pro Tools, and let me let you hear the vocal clip that we're working with here before we apply the de-esser. All right, so let's give it a listen.
I don't care what they say, the food court in the mall is death. There's germs and roaches and murderers. It ain't been swept. I don't care.
All right, so we got a pretty good sounding vocal track right off the bat here, but there are some S's in it that do need to be tamed. So let's open up the Slate FG-DS 902. So the first thing I want to do is I want to bring the range knob up into the norm range. And the reason for that is I think that we want to just start where the plugin suggests that we want to be. And again, the norm range is what it suggests for basically subtle, smooth de-essing. Okay, so if we put it here, we know that we're going to get some natural de-essing. So let's at least start there, all right? And also, I want to start in the high frequency only mode so that we can actually start finding the specific frequency that we need to start de-essing for this particular vocal track. And then we'll determine if we want to keep it in high frequency only mode or if we want to go into full range mode. So with that being said, let's listen to this vocal track and let's dial it in.
I don't care what they say, the food court in the mall. In the mall is death. There's germs and roaches and murderers. It ain't been swept. I don't care what they say, the food court in the mall is death. There's germs and roaches and murderers. It ain't been swept. I don't care what they say, the food court in the mall is death. There's germs and roaches and murderers. It ain't been swept. It ain't been swept. I don't care what they say, the food court in the mall is death. There's germs and roaches and murderers. It ain't been swept. I don't care what they say, the food court in the mall is death. There's germs and roaches and they say the food court in the mall is death. There's germs and roaches and murderers. It ain't been swept. I don't care what they say, the food court in the mall is death. There's germs and roaches and murderers. It ain't been swept. I don't care what they say, the food court in the mall is death. There's germs and roaches and murderers. It ain't been swept. I don't care what they say, the food court in the mall is death. There's germs and roaches and murderers. It ain't been swept. I don't care what they say, the food court in the mall is death. There's germs and roaches and murderers. It ain't been swept. I don't care what they say, the food court in the mall is death. There's germs and roaches and murderers. It ain't been swept. I don't care what.
All right, so this de-esser actually sounds quite good. This is my first time actually playing with the plugin. I do have to say that I think that the full range mode sounded a little bit more natural, a little bit more smoother on this particular vocal track. I think for the high frequency only mode, when I had it set at 6K where it's currently at, I think it's a little bit less effective than when I had it all the way down at 3K. And I think that's a little lesson to be learned for this particular de-esser, that you need to set it a little bit further down frequency-wise than you're used to for a de-esser. So the nice thing too is that when I had it down at 3K, it was also kind of suppressing some of those maybe harsh frequencies, maybe around 4K, that are, maybe poke out on vocal tracks sometimes. I probably would have EQ'd those out if I spent a little more time on this vocal track, but I think this de-esser actually did a pretty good job of smoothing them out on top of grabbing the S's. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you guys like the full range mode better on this vocal track, or if you guys like the high frequency only mode better. And for the high frequency only mode, do you guys like it better at 6K or did you like it better when I had it down at 3K? Okay, so just let me know in the comment section below. So with that being said, let's actually move on and hear what this sounds like on dialogue. All right, so I got a dialogue track here of me saying Sally sells seashells by the seashore. Little tongue twister there, with lots of S's in it. So we're going to tame my S's here. So let's give it a listen and dial it in. Sally sells seashells by the seashore. 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 Alright, so for this particular vocal track, I'm definitely digging the high frequency only mode better. I think with the frequency set around 3K, it's doing a very natural job of suppressing the S's. So let me know what you guys think. And let's do one more before and after so you guys can hear this thing in action before I give you my overall final thoughts. Alright, so let's give it a listen. Sally sells seashells by the seashore. 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 Alright, so that was my review / tutorial on the Slate Digital FG-DS 902 de-esser. And I've only used it so far in this tutorial, but I have to say I really like it so far. It does a really good job of suppressing the S's while not muffling the sound too bad. So I know you guys have de-essers in your collection that, well, they don't even really, suppress the S's. And to get them to suppress the S's, you gotta crank them up and they muffle the sound really bad. So there's some pretty bad de-essers out there, I'm gonna have to say. Not gonna mention any names in this tutorial, but I think this one does a pretty good job of doing it very subtly and very naturally. So definitely digging it so far. So if you guys do like this de-esser, I have a link in the description below where you can purchase it. And if you guys end up liking this video, give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe because I'm making this content for you, and hit that notification bell to know when I have new videos coming out. And if you guys enjoyed this content, definitely check out my video on the Slate Dream Team of vocal compressors. And with that being said, until the next video, I will see you guys later, and peace out.